Alright, so Operation Heartburn came out a couple days ago, but the takeover event will keep going for at least 10 days. I thought it would be a fun idea to try to predict what the Rotten Coral documents might say, and see when the takeover is over and the documents get added, how close I actually was to getting them right. This video is going to be very informal. I don't really have a script, so I'm just basically going to say what comes to mind. And if I'm 100% wrong, I'm 100% wrong. It's whatever, it won't be the first time. And if you're new here, my name's babasmind. I'm obsessed with this Roblox game called Pressure, and why don't you drop a little like and subscribe and stick around for more videos. Yeah. I'm gonna start with two zombies that I think are pretty integral to how I'm imagining this Rotten Coral hive mind to be. So I will start with Bullwark. Bullwark is a zombie that holds a door in front of it that you have to shoot from behind. It has a huge rotten coral opening on its back that you're obviously supposed to shoot, but you can shoot it from the sides if you're lucky. This thing will also knock you down if it hits you, causing the player to take about 25 to 30 damage, I think. But speaking on its lore side, I think the reason it has a door is because the Rotten Coral hive mind is telling these zombies how to protect themselves. It is actively telling these things how to protect themselves, how to defend themselves, how to go on the offensive. It's trying to do everything in its power to make sure that it stays safe. The heart of the hive mind stays safe. And the Bullwark is just an example of the adaptation that they're able to do. Later down the line, I'll explain way more why I think this, but I think these zombies are way more intelligent than we're led on to believe. Also, obviously, the name Bullwark is a reference to Bulwark of the Weak from Risk of Rain. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This is obviously a Risk of Rain reference again. And speaking of offensive, let's move on to the Marksman. The Marksman is the zombie that has the turret in its body, you know, just kind of fused in there. And if you take a closer look, the barrel of the turret is actually split open 3 ways, probably explaining why these things are terrible, terrible shots. But I think this zombie is just another example as to how this infection is honestly adapting and changing. These things are way more intelligent than we think, and this zombie variant in particular probably goes out of its way to find turrets to fuse with. Who knows, maybe even the infection is seeking out turrets to, you know, confiscate and keep for themselves. We don't know yet, but that's my theory so far. Like the hive mind could be searching for, you know, guardsmen, people that actually know how to shoot a gun, to be fused into these. With a lot of more things that I'll go over later in this video, the former Robloxians they were before being turned might play a huge role in what they become. Also, quick little note, the turrets are able to, I don't know, fuse into the rotten coral because we can see the Marksman come out of the rotten coral with a completely different matter than the rotten coral. So, who knows? We could see maybe a fucking car come out of the rotten coral, infected rotten car. Is that possible? I don't know. Alright, let's move on to the Scuttler. Other than being the bane of my existence, these things are one of the fastest versions of the zombies. Having 2 hooks at the end of their arms, they lunge themselves at the player, dealing a good sum of damage. I don't know why, but probably because they're on all 4s, I kind of see these things as like the pets of this infection. I don't know if you guys see that too, but they kind of just act more animalistic than the other ones. I could see them being more like trained guard dogs for the rest of these zombies. Especially with this weird bulb antenna thing on their head, it seems like they use that to really understand their surroundings, maybe. It also could be an eye because the Bullwark actually has 2 stalks on top of it, just like this. And out of all of the zombies that we've seen so far, this one has the most prominent different features, other than a singular one that we'll get into a little bit later. Let's take a look at the Rook. Resembling 2 prisoners stacked on top of each other, combined by the rotten coral. This one, obviously being the most dangerous entity, this thing will charge at you and do a very big lump sum of damage. Probably due to the big spiky arm that it has on its right side. That thing looks definitely dangerous. Now it's obvious the Rooks are hard hitters, and the name probably correlates to this fact due to the Rook chess piece usually being very valued in a game of chess. And also the top of the Rook kind of resembling the Rook chess piece due to the coral sticking out like that. I think, is this just me? Do I only see this? Please let me know. It might not have been intentional, but there is a double meaning to this, being the name and the actual physical resemblance of the, you know, Rook. Now we're moving on to the Abscess. The Abscess is kind of more like a bomber character, so I'm sure there's not really any like lorical reasons as to why it exists. It's probably just for another variant in the game mode. The document will probably go into detail about like how it explodes, how the rotten coral is able to do this, stuff like that probably. And maybe the name of it is actually giving us a hint, because abscesses mean it's like a big ball of pus on our bodies. That sounds really gross, but it's true. Could the rotten coral somehow build up too much of itself and explode? I don't know. It could just be a bomber. Who knows? Ooh, my big belly, it's full of rotten coral. But other than that, this in particular doesn't really have a lot of lore reasons as to why it exists. But I could be wrong about this. I'm not too sure about this one. Alright, time for the big one. This one is named Pariah, and if you look at its body, it's actually split down the middle. Pretty fucking crazy body horror, if you ask me. And the fact that it's split down the middle, it's actually actively keeping itself together with this weird, you know, cloth fabric thing that it has wrapped around its body. It only has one arm, and at the end of it, the fingers are covered in rotten coral. And if you take a look at its head, it is even more disgusting. This one in particular acts a lot different than the other zombies, being the only one that floats and whispers sweet secrets into your ear as it gets closer. And as you, the player, gets closer to it, your screen will darken and you can more clearly see the Pariah. And if you haven't noticed by now, we've actually seen this weird peripheral effect before with the imaginary friend, always being visible, disregarding any walls, no matter how far away it is. So now, let's talk about something a little bit more interesting. When you get close enough to Pariah, you can actually hear whispering, as I said earlier. And if we reverse this whispering, we can actually hear a message. Let's take a listen.
Sweet summer child, you come not before you defile. One day your body will rot, its flesh will be undone, and your skull will be brought to the light.
The Pariah goes on to talk about how being absorbed by the rotten coral after you die will make you reborn into a new life, a better life. It will bring you to a world better than your own. He also speaks as if he was preaching to you, as if he was trying to send a message to you specifically. At the end, he says, "The coral accepts all in its loving embrace." And right here is exactly why I think the rotten coral is a little bit more complicated than we think. The Pariah is the smoking gun as to why the rotten coral is so important to this event. Well, I mean, if that wasn't clear already, it's the main focus, but it's kind of crazy to think we've just been stepping over this infectious hive mind this entire time. As we traverse through the halls of the black site, this thing was probably slowly nipping at our ankles, trying to infect us. And by the way, there was a lot more to Pariah's speech, so if you really want to hear the rest of it, I'll put a video in the description going over the entire reverse speech. And that about wraps up all the variants. I really hope I didn't miss one, because I would hate doing this part over. And just so people aren't like, oh, where's the heart? Where's the heart? You didn't talk about the heart. It's basically, it's going to be the document that explains what the rotten coral is. It's obvious. It's probably an alien or something, to be honest. I don't even think it's coral. I know it's called coral and they refer to it as coral, even the zombies do. I don't believe that this is actually coral. I feel like this is some weird alien thing that is laid dormant in, you know, the Let Van zone for a really long time. And because Urban Shade started building there, the rotten coral's like, hey, I don't like this, I'm trying to sleep here, I'm gonna kill all of you. I think that's basically it. Honestly, at first I thought the Pariah was like some other contained entity that mixed with the rotten coral. The more I think about that, the more I kind of think that's not true. So, and as I explained earlier, I kind of think that the zombies' previous lives before they get infected have something to do with it, but I'm not entirely sure how. It's more of like a simple thought at the moment than more of a well thought out theory. But as we've seen through Pariah, there's obviously some type of intellect we're not getting yet, and we'll probably get that with the documents. And with the documents, we're actually getting new content with the update too, from what I've heard. Not a lot, but it's definitely something. That's gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is my first ever video on this channel that doesn't have a script the entire time, so it feels very weird. I cannot wait for the documents, and I'm gonna keep streaming, helping you guys beat this challenge. But for now, that's all. So I'll see you guys later. Like and subscribe, and bye-bye.